What does a pharmacist do? Well, most people might answer that a pharmacist dispenses the medications that my doctor prescribes. Now, I work with a ton of great pharmacists, and one thing that I don't generally see is excitement about pills in a vial. And this is probably because pharmacists have been trained to do so much more. So what can you get excited about in your community? To find out, let's go beyond the scripts. Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Scripts. I'm your host, Will Tuft with Pioneer RX, and today we have a special guest joining us from Eden Drug. Everyone, please welcome Pete Crouch, dare I say legendary pharmacist.
I don't know about that, but I'm old, so I've been around a long time.
A little more time for legend making. No, but definitely a recognizable face, somebody that anytime I go to a trade show, one of the faces I'm looking for, certainly a well-known figure in pharmacy today. So welcome and thanks for joining. I know super busy, so thanks for making some time.
Oh, this is great. My pleasure.
So for anyone that's not familiar with Eden Drug, tell me a little bit about Eden Drug and the community that you serve there.
Okay. We're in Piedmont, North Carolina. We're right on the North Carolina-Virginia line, just like 10 miles from the state line. And Eden is a little town of about 15,000, and it is made up of three small towns that consolidated back in 1967 when I was in high school. And it almost didn't happen. The vote was really, really close. But since that time, the area seemed to flourish more. And and so it was a great community. My wife and I both grew up in Eden and raised our kids here. So it's kind of fun to be back in the community serving patients where we grew up. So
yeah,
it's a little town of so a little bit of the history. We've got a couple of rivers that run through Eden, and so you can imagine in the early years there were a lot of mills, cotton mills, mainly because of the water power, and so a lot of the local economy depended on that textile type of industry. And of course, when that all went away some years back, it was difficult. And we went through some of those trying times. And we'll talk about that a little bit. Yeah. So that's a little bit about the community.
So that pharmacy has been there for quite a while. I guess Eden Drug has been there about 40 years, 41 years.
Yes. We celebrated our 40th anniversary last summer. And every so often we will do a community appreciation or customer appreciation day. And we usually do that around our anniversary date. And that's usually in June. So we get out there and grill hot dogs, and we have music, and we'll have a bounce house for the kids. And sometimes we have unusual animals to show up, not people, but and just we make it a fun day for a lot of folks. But yeah, Eden Drug has been around since 1982. And that was when my daughter was born, and she now works for us. It was started by a couple of pharmacists, and they did a really great job. They weren't very technology savvy, but they really created a good business. And my wife and I bought the business in 2006, and then transformed it into what it is today. So we've owned the business now since 2006.
Nice. But you actually started in 2000 at Eden Drug? So you had a little bit of time there before making the ownership leap, huh?
I did. It really was great for the transition because I got to know the patients really well, and they got to know me and feel comfortable with me. And so we just had a real easy transition. And the guys that I purchased it from were just amazing. And they continued to work for me some over the years until their health declined a little bit, but they would cover weekends for me so I could get away with my family. Because those early years were a little bit tough. Back in '06, the economy was starting to decline. And so I wound up working a lot of hours throughout the week. But it helped me to really get in the business and start to transform it the way I want it to go, without any resistance. And it just made a lot of difference.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty ideal situation when you're able to go in and kind of, earn your stripes, organically with the community and with the staff. But then also, keep that goodwill in the community, because anytime a business that's been around for 40 years has roots that are that deep, there's probably a bit of fear, or anytime there's a changing of the guard or the end of an era. So how great to be able to keep that goodwill and those familiar faces on board.
That's right. It was really it was a scary time to be purchasing a business when the economy didn't look that great.
Sure.
But it was a time when we didn't have DIR fees also. And it was about the time that Med-D actually came into being. And so we were experiencing more people getting their prescription being paid for that before we're paying out of pocket. And so we were able to pick up some more business that way. And we didn't know how good we had it, actually. Reimbursement.
Right.
Back in those days, DRs have certainly got more challenging over the years, for sure. So I had worked on a lot of things to help me become a good pharmacist, going to CEs and all of this. I had really focused on how to be a really good clinical pharmacist. And but now, owning a pharmacy, I had to change hats and learn how to be a good businessman. And so those early years were trying to figure out our direction and trying to prepare me to know how to really look at a balance sheet and an income statement, and to know not just how much money you had in the bank, but to be able to forecast what my needs were going to be 6 months down the road. And so I did a lot of work in those early years on me, just learning about financials, learning about marketing, learning about people.
Sure.
How to hire. I never had to do that before. And now, you learn by mistakes, but that's a costly way to learn. So I think in those early years, I spent a lot of time on developing me and trying to get the tools that I needed, and also to start developing my staff. And that was huge. One of the things we did early on was actually created a vision. And then that vision became our roadmap, so that everything we did, we tried to live our vision, and we tried to tie our activities to whether or not it fit our vision. And so I think that was one of the critical steps that we actually did some hard work, and we did a lot of bouncing ideas, my wife and I, and some of my leadership staff. We bounced a lot of ideas around, and and really try to create something that would be meaningful to us as a business and to our community, and to really, so we could go home at night and we could feel good about what we do during the day, because what we do is hard sometimes.
Yeah. And it's crazy how many hats you have to wear. It's kind of like I love the Gordon Ramsay shows with like Kitchen Nightmares, where you see people who are passionate about one aspect. Maybe they're a chef, maybe they like dining experiences. So they thought, oh, I'm going to go open a restaurant, and all of a sudden they have to wear all these different hats that they're just woefully inequipped for. Like I can imagine what a tidal wave that must be. So who did you lean on early on to kind of make those hard decisions and kind of get a roadmap together? Was it a specific organization, state organization, or local chambers, or who did you lean on early for those kind of initial steps?
Well, a lot of the above. We became active in our Chamber of Commerce so that I could get connected to other businesses. And we were I'd also started going to a lot of trade shows. I'd always done a lot with CE, and I'm a clinical pharmacist practitioner. So I was always getting about 35 hours of CE just to keep that up. But now I am more interested in marketing and business and how to really grow that way. So I think at one of the McKesson conferences, I met Dan Benamos from PDS, and this was like 6 months after I bought the pharmacy. And man, I think he did a marketing program called "Put Your Marketing on Steroids." And that was pretty catchy. And of course, Dan, he always puts on a great presentation.
Sure.
And so I filled out a little card, and he called me about, oh my goodness, a month later, maybe. And we talked, and he said, well, we'd love to have you as a member. And we started talking about pricing, and it was like $350. I thought, gosh, I don't think I can afford $350 a month. And Dan said, hey, if you don't think what we provide you with is worth $350 after 3 months, I'll give you all your money back. And so we tried it, and it was, PDS was really what we needed to help us to engage in activities that, I probably would never have thought of. They brought very high-powered speakers
Sure.
To the conference, and I was connected to a personal coach, a business coach, and later became involved in the board of directors. So had to present, my business as if I were in running a large business on a board, and so learned a lot about financials and really connecting with other pharmacy owners that was having the same struggles I'm having, but maybe they figured a different solution. And so we shared a lot of ideas and really got to know a lot of great people over the years. So I would say PDS was probably the most influential in helping us to move forward as a business, and do some things that we probably wouldn't have thought.
Yeah. So you had 6 years at that pharmacy before you took that ownership leap. So there could definitely be, some time to see how the pharmacy works, but also to see how it has worked forever. And it could be easy for some people to say that's the way we've always done it, and that's the way we'll continue to do it. There's always that draw. So what did you see as this is definitely working and this needs to stay the way it is. This is the secret sauce for success in a small community. And then what did you see as opportunity that when I'm at the helm, we're going to, take a different direction. We're going to offer this service. Where did you see that you wanted to go kind of in the early days?
Well, I knew we had to change. We had to adapt technology. The previous owners, the community loved them, but they had a very antiquated computer system. It was basically a glorified typewriter. And so we knew we had to upgrade the technology to be able to take care of our patients better and just put in systems that would help us to be organized. I can remember when I first went to work there, and the system was if you owed somebody some medication, it's coming in the next day, you put a note up on the wall. And so there were all these notes hanging everywhere. And so then you had to find the note and
oh no.
And it was people would come in to get their medication, and then you had to find the note. Then you had to go retrieve the medication, and so the patient was waiting. It was pretty chaotic, and so as I became owner and could make the decisions about how to modify some things, it still was tough because the staff was somewhat resistant, even just putting in a color-coded basket system. And so it unfortunately took some employee changes in order to make the transition work like I needed it to work. So we had to get the right people in the right seat on the bus.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have a good person working for you, but they're just not capable of doing or performing the job that they're in. And you just got to move them around and get them in the right seat. So I think in adapting better technology and employee training, and just having meetings, because they really didn't embrace that in the early days. And so we started having meetings, and we just did some things. I can remember we did a little thing called iPower. And don't know if you've ever heard of that or not, but I heard it at one of the conferences, and it was how do you tap in to the employees having ideas about things, because a lot of these employees that are on the front line or your delivery employees, they might actually have an idea of how to do it better. And so you want to try to capture those ideas. And so it was, we took some little bitty sticky notepads, and we asked each employee to come to the meeting with 2 ideas. And if it had any value, if it was a pretty good idea, they're going to get $5 for it. And if it had any value, positive value whatsoever, we paid at least $1. And we got some interesting things. I mean, we had a customer service employee that had a great idea for our delivery drivers. And when the patient wasn't home, why aren't we putting a note on their door saying we were there and we tried to deliver to them, and we'll check back at a later time. That way, when they got home, their medication wasn't there. They knew we at least tried. And so it gave a better experience. But really what this was a way to start to train the employees to problem solve. And now we're changing their mindset from, okay, this is how we do it, to, are there any other possibilities out there? Could we do this easier? And management likes us to give them ideas. They pay us to give them ideas. And so now people are just helping us with all kinds of things. Some valuable, some not. But we tried to we tried to capture the good ideas and just put them in a file so that maybe, sometimes it's about timing. An idea might be a great idea, but the timing might just not be quite right. So,
Yeah.
so we tried to capture the things that made sense, and it made our employees feel like they were part of the team, and that what they thought about or their ideas didn't matter. So, I think that was part of changing the culture, I guess, to let's be a team and let's be patient focused.
Yeah, and that's such a great mindset for your team, to kind of be able to share that valuable experience of, this is what actually happens when from a desk in the back or from a programmer's computer or wherever it is, it may look like a great idea, but when you see it actually in practice, yeah, this could be tweaked and this could be much better. And like I said, now that employee feels like they're part of the team. It's the thing that we're doing, and that little change can be such a big mindset shift.
Absolutely. Some of the early things, I'll just dive into some of the early things we did so first of all, our vision was to keep our patients healthy, give them an exceptional experience, and give back to our local community. So we wanted those three pillars to be part of our vision. And I worked with my business coach to try to develop that. And what does it look like? What does all of that mean? And we talk about it in staff meetings. And we tried to help our staff understand what does it mean to keep our patients healthy? What does it mean to give them a great experience? And what does it mean to give back to our community? So one of the first things we did is we did a book bag program we looked at young families, and we wanted to engage more with young families. And it was 2010 maybe or 9. And the economy wasn't that great. And so a lot of young families were struggling, and we said, what can we do to help the kids get a great start back to school? And so we said, let's do a book bag program. And the chamber was kind of promoting that a little bit. So I went to the school system, and we wanted to focus on kids K through 5. So I said, well, how many kids in our Eden area? And they said 1,700 kids. And I'm thinking, wow.
Yeah.
A lot of kids. So we actually found online where we could buy book bags. And I don't know that we bought 1,700, but we probably bought 1,500 or so that first year. And so we got the book bags in, and we said, well, Walmart puts on all these sales during the summer, and we're going to start early, and we're going to collect all of these school supplies. How can we make it very impactful for, if we wanted to, all the K through 5 kids in our community? And so we started going to local businesses, and we said, would you like to donate to the book bag program that we're going to do for young kids? And by the way, you can put a coupon in there. So we went to pizza places.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we went to where you change your oil, and we went to doctor's offices. We went to just talk to individuals, and we grabbed up coupons. People donated money, and we started buying the school supplies when they became available. And we had an education center that we had been teaching diabetes education at, and so we sort of staged everything there. We went to Walmart, and we filled up 17 buggies full of school supplies. So it was a little chaotic, and Walmart didn't know exactly what to think, but they gave me a gift card for $250, so that helped out. And we found that we did a little bit of marketing through the chamber, and some of the news outlets sort of picked up on what we were doing, especially after the first year. And we actually had patients giving us money when we were shopping in Walmart. They would walk up to us and actually give us money for the program. So it was very impactful. And we then had all of this stuff that we took to our education center. We had all the book bags, and we said, now we've got to get it organized, got to get it ready. So my wife is a retired elementary education teacher. So you can imagine why we got connected with book bag programs.
Sure.
But so she knew a bunch of retired teachers, and they volunteered their time, and we had staff members, we had other volunteers, and we put all these book bags together. We filled them up with supplies, basically. And then about a week before school starts, we set up a big tent outside, and we just had the parking lot full of people. But some of the things we also did to engage them in connecting with our pharmacy is we had a bubble gum machine called the Gumball Gizmo, and it goes through all these things. It takes about a minute for the bubble gum to actually come out. So it's kind of fun to watch the different actuations that occur. And so we gave all the kids a quarter so they could come in and do the bubble gum thing. And we also put kids' chewable vitamins in the book bags, or we gave them a coupon where they could get it, come into the pharmacy, and we would actually queue it up like a prescription. And we said, this is free to you every month for a year. And then if you continue to do business, if your family does business with us, we just continue the program indefinitely. So it was a great way to show, for families to learn about us as a business without having to spend a dime. They could come in and experience the atmosphere, the experience that they had, get their prescription filled, and not have to spend anything. So that became an amazing marketing tool, and it cost about 50 cents for a month's supply of those kids' vitamins. And we still do it today for kids. So we did this book bag program for over 9 years, for at least 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And so eventually the YMCA and some other groups wanted to take it over, and we pretty much were exhausted because we were spending our summer vacation collecting school supplies, and it was a great program, and we had some great connections in the community with promoting that. So a lot of fun.
Yeah. So growing up there in the community, you have an organic connection with people in your age bracket, and then you have your daughter there in the community as well. Not to mention Eden Drug with their history in the community, and now kind of touching base with that third generation and building those strong bonds. It's hard to imagine a kid in Rockingham County that hasn't had an Eden Drug backpack at some point. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, we would see them around all kind of places, and we would have some left over because not all the kids would get them. So what we did is we took them to the schools around Christmas time, and when the kids came back to school after the first of the year, they always needed stuff, so the teachers would kind of supply the kids with extra stuff that they needed. So it became a really good needed project for our community, especially in those years where a lot of folks were struggling.
Yeah. So you definitely kind of touched on an emphasis on education a couple times already, whether it's yourself and professional development, your wife and her ties to the community, and working with schools. But one of the things that has been a focus for Eden Drug is the education center. And I thought that was a really interesting kind of aspect of that pharmacy. So tell me a little bit about how that works and what services you offer there.
Yeah. So at some of the meetings, I met David Pope, and David had developed a program around diabetes education, around heart healthy classes, and really had put together a package where pharmacists could, without, just with our knowledge, he had all the slides and everything prepared for us. And we could, in 30 minutes, go over his program, already know it about diabetes, and we could present it in a very professional way. So we started out doing diabetes education at the Chamber of Commerce. We didn't really have room in the pharmacy, but they had a boardroom, and we started inviting our diabetic patients, and we invited the whole community, really. So regardless of whether patients were our patients or not. And we started focusing on diabetes because those folks need a lot of help, especially understanding nutrition, understanding their medication. And it's a very complicated disease, and they take a lot of medication. So we knew that we could really engage with those folks well. And then we, as part of that, we also did a heart healthy class, and we took that on the road to one of the senior centers and started doing that program at the senior center. And it evolved. I would sort of split it up in the early years. I did the diabetes education, and one of my other pharmacists would do the heart healthy class. And then we started bringing students in and letting them do part of it as well. Later, I hired a nurse that's a diabetic, certified diabetic educator. And she is she is amazing, very passionate about educating patients about nutrition and about diabetes. And so now she works with our diabetic patients. So I've sort of stepped out of that role a little bit. But during all of this, we purchased an old building that was fairly near the pharmacy. It was really an old trucking terminal. And so we put some offices in there, and we created some space for our education classes. And we did that for a few years there. And then all of a sudden a tornado took the building out.
Oh, no.
Yes. That building is 0.2 of a mile from our pharmacy. And the building came over the YMCA, did some damage there, took our building out, didn't hurt anybody, middle of the night. And so it was pretty devastating there for a while. But for some reason, an opportunity came up with another building right beside the pharmacy, and we wound up purchasing that. And now we have an amazing diabetes education center right beside the pharmacy. Our staff has office space there. We have half the building for a palliative care clinic for our hospice program in Rockingham County. So it's really created a great space for us here, and we do our diabetes education there. When COVID hit, it became it became a place where we could set up and do all our vaccines. We could do testing. We could do our monoclonal antibodies and not disrupt the workflow in the pharmacy itself. So it just made perfect sense. It's like it was meant to be, and it was perfect timing for us with that.
So many independent pharmacies were able to pivot during COVID and do those things where, the bigger entities just can't. And it almost seems like Kismet sometimes, where there just happens to be the space next door. And, we've had that with a couple different guests that we've talked to where, it almost seemed like destiny. So, with chronic disease states, so much of the impact on the patient can be managed through education and lifestyle change. But of course, the education process is takes investment from the patient. It also takes investment from some other entity to make that happen. So how are you able to offer that to your patients? Are you able to turn that into a successful business model? How are you able to monetize that or at least make that self-sustaining, especially in a small community?
Yeah. So we knew we wanted to be credentialed. And so we did some work and became credentialed with Medicare so that we could actually bill for these services. So we can bill Medicare, we can bill commercial insurance. We even have the local Lions Club funds some indigent patient education. It doesn't pay a lot. It works better if you can take 10 patients through the program, and then it becomes more cost efficient, I guess. But COVID sort of disrupted all of that. Before COVID, we would have 20 to 30 patients come to our classes, and since COVID, we've tried to have some classes, and we just haven't been able to reconnect with patients like we would like to.
Sure.
Well, we're doing some one-on-one. We want to keep the program going. We think it's very needed. So we're actually doing some one-on-one. It's not cost effective to do that, but it's important, and it fits our vision of how we take care of patients. So our nurse, who's a certified diabetic educator, does a lot of this so that our pharmacists can stay focused on other activities in the pharmacy. So that nurse has become vital in helping us with our education program and helping us with our vaccines as well.
Yeah. So looks can definitely be deceiving. If you go to Google Maps and take a look at your community, definitely looks like a small town, small population, but it seems like you serve a much larger area, rural area where people will come within the city limits, I guess. But it also seems like your pharmacy is a pretty small building on one of the main streets in town there, but you have a huge team kind of working behind the scenes, right?
We do. We have about 40 employees.
Yeah.
And a fault of mine is that I like to do everything. And that comes with risk. So when you do everything, you have to put the resources behind trying to make it all work. So we have 40 employees. Our building is about 4,500 square feet. So it's a good size, and we have office space for our nurse. We do pre-employment drug testing. So and for some reason that just clicked at our site. We have patients that will all the employees that Walmart hires, they send them to us to be drug tested, and within 10 minutes of us doing the test, and it's just peeing in a cup, basically, and putting it in a little device. But in 10 minutes after doing that, if it's a good hire, they can know that within 10 minutes just by logging on to the portal. So it's very efficient for them. We will do at least 100 tests a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And our non-clinical staff can actually perform these tests, and it gives them a higher level of activity to be able to do in the pharmacy. So it's another level of satisfaction for them. So we need employees for doing that. We have a lot of customer service. We have like 4 different POS systems, one at our drive-through and 3 in the pharmacy. And so we have staff to manage all of that. We have a little bit of D&B that we fit diabetic shoes, compression hose. So some of our staff are trained for doing those things. We do a little bit of compounding. We do packaging. We have a robot. We go in a lot of different directions sometimes. And then we have our education center next door that we always have activities going on there. We can do staff development. We can do bring patients in and do trainings. We can have our staff meetings. So there's always something. But one of the things that we're open a lot of hours.
Yeah.
So we're open 7 days a week, from 8 o'clock in the morning until 7 in the evening. And we're open Saturday from 8 to 5 and Sunday from 1 to 5. So we cover a lot of hours, and that takes a lot of our staff.
For sure. So I can definitely see how your staff had to adapt to some changes. Seems like you've introduced quite a few different things there in the pharmacy that was traditionally more fill and bill. What about some of the other big employers in that area? It seems like in a smaller community where maybe you don't have, like I said, a drug testing facility or some of those other resources that a larger community might have. So if you go up East Meadow Road and you have some of the bigger employers out there in your area, have you been able to kind of find ways to serve that larger customer and that larger need?
We are definitely trying. We are connected with one company called Gildan, and you probably see their name on a lot of T-shirts that you wear. They're a distribution center, and we get to do all their employee vaccines. We'll just go on site and cover all 3 shifts, and we've done COVID vaccine there, flu shots. And they engage with our pharmacy where a lot of their prescription business as well. We have a great relationship with them. There's a new company that is starting further down Meadow Road, Purina Dog Food. And they have converted an old Miller Brewing company that started in Eden back in the 70s. And they left about 10 years ago. So the building, the factory was sitting idle for a number of years, and Purina has come in and they're upfitting for their needs. And we understand it's going to be their flagship operation.
Oh, wow.
So we hope they're going to think they're going to employ around 600 or so people. And so we hope we can get some opportunities there as well. Most other businesses are relatively small, but those are 2 of the larger companies in our area.
Yeah, what a great impact. That must have been tough when Miller left. I can imagine a small community, when you lose a big job supplier like that. I know locally we're still feeling the effects of losing the GM plant here in Shreveport. That was a major hub. But that's great if you're able to, build those relationships and that customer base with those large entities like that.
Yes.
So,
talking about business, one of the things we did early on is we did a buy local campaign. And this was probably in 2011, again, when our economy was struggling. We just learning about the importance of spending money at locally owned businesses, you could churn up to 70% of the money in your local economy if you spent it at a business where the owner of the business lived in the community.
Sure.
The big box stores, they employ people, and those folks get to spend their money locally oftentimes, but a lot of the money goes out of state to wherever their corporate headquarters are. And so after learning the value of that, we did a buy local campaign. And what we did is we went to the bank and we ordered $2 bills. Have you ever heard of this program?
Not only have I heard of it, but yes, I've got a $2 bill that that I carry with me.
Awesome. So the bank actually let us stamp buy local on those $2 bills. So what we did is we wound up giving our staff $2,000, and we distributed it. I think each one got about $70 or so. And we set up a little contest, and we said, this is free money, but there are rules, and you have to spend it at a locally owned business. And then they had to figure out, okay, what is a locally owned business? And so we explained to them what that was, and gave some examples. And we said that the person that spends it at the most locally owned businesses, we're gonna have a cash prize. And someone earned $100
Nice.
extra by doing that. So they had a lot of fun with going out and spending their $2. And we said, if anybody asks, what's the deal with these $2 bills? They had to explain the value of going to and spending their money at a locally owned business. So we had a lot of fun with that. And it was, again, a culture building thing for our staff, as well as a awareness for our community as well. Because when we went to health fairs, we gave away $2 bills for doing a basketball throw or just something. And we did health fairs. And our staff had to tell the employer or the business why it was important. And we even gave them away, and our cash register as change.
Nice.
But if patients would agree to it. So we had a lot of fun with doing the buy local campaign, and it created a buzz in the community about that and about Eden Drug and buy local. So that became a fun thing. And again, it was connecting to our vision of taking care of our community as well as our culture within the pharmacy.
Yeah. So you've definitely kept that intentionality of making that vision a reality, and been recognized, obviously, with quite a few different awards over the years. Most recently, tell us a little bit about the award that you got this year.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise to us. So this was Pharmacy of the Year for the McKesson Health Mart stores. And so we were nominated, and we got to go to Las Vegas and present. And then everyone at the trade show actually got to vote on which one of the three pharmacies would be Pharmacy of the Year. And so we had a lot of fun. We met a lot of people, and it was really exciting. I got to take some of my staff, so they had a great time as well.
Yeah. So if you weren't there, I happened to be there, so I got to see you get the award, which was really exciting. But but there's some clips on the internet and of course on the website. And I thought it was really neat that you had updated your website pretty quickly after. So very quick to pivot and make those updates and share the news, because it's really neat. Did you get one of the Lego builds of your store? I saw Christine's and I thought that was the coolest thing.
No.
Yeah, so if you weren't there, they had a partnership with a Lego team at this event, and they had the three nominees. Was it Hazel Green, Eden Drug, and what is Christine's store? I can't think of the name offhand. Anyways, they were super neat Lego kind of dioramas of each store, so they were super cool.
Yeah, I thought McKesson did a really great job of their trade show this year. I think the pandemic had really created difficulty for them to present like they wanted to, but they pulled out all the stops, and I thought they did a really good job this last year.
Yeah, professional pharmacy, I think it is.
Yes.
Okay.
And they were great. I had no idea. I thought for sure Christine was going to get it because she did such a great job. But it was a lot of fun. Awards are nice, but it's really about taking care of our patients and doing what we do, what all of us do every day in and day out, of taking care of our patients. And, I got an award, but there are a lot of pharmacists out there that are doing the hard work of taking care of their patients and doing it in an extraordinary way. I think just getting through this year and getting through all this DIR stuff that we're having to go through has been so challenging. But we're doing the hard work to take care of our patients, and that's what we have to keep focusing on. The only problem is it's making it difficult because our reimbursements are so tight. It makes it difficult to engage in a lot of other activities other than just stay focused on not losing money, stay focused on, making sure your patients are getting what they're needed. And we just kind of had to rein a few things in this year, mainly because of that. But I think it's made us stronger in some ways, because it's made us tighten our belt. Sometimes we may be paying for programs or things that we're not even really using, and it's caused us to really look at what our expenses are, and is it a need or a want?
Yeah.
If we just want something because we want it, now might not be the time for that. Now is the time to really focus on what do we need and really take care of our patients.
Yeah, it's interesting how so many pharmacies universally have just had to learn how to run super lean. And, when the tides finally do turn, which, it seems inevitable that they must at this point, especially with some of the breaks this year, like the Trust LLC and some of the great work that NCPA is doing. It definitely seems like the tides are turning. But just imagine if these incredibly passionate pharmacists with that servant mindset were able to focus their energy on not just advocacy to stay in business, but to really focus on passionately on patient care and do that in a little bit greener pasture. How amazing is that going to be in another year, hopefully, or two?
Yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, and hopefully we are getting some traction with these PBMs and trying to get our legislators to pay attention I do fear that there's a lot of other things going on in the world that's taking their attention away from other important things. But we just got to keep the pressure on and keep community pharmacy viable to get through this very difficult times. It's kind of like what you do in hard times. Well, what you do in good times makes a difference. What happens when times are hard? And when times are hard, the activities that you do makes a difference in when times are good and how long they last. And so I think, we have to recognize that this is a time when we really have to focus on the health of our business and our employees and stay strong for just getting through this next little bit. Because I really do believe it's going to get a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like it has to. There's, the fact that people outside of pharmacy understand what a PBM is now. There's a general awareness that, hopefully there has to be some righting of the ship at some point.
Yeah, I agree. My wife and I actually got to go to our state legislature, and they recognized us for winning the award. So one of our local legislators, Reese Pirtle, actually stood up and did a whole proclamation about our accomplishments and what community pharmacy means to the community, the local community. And so this got put into the record there. So hopefully when PBM legislation comes up in North Carolina, they've got resources to pull from of examples of why community pharmacy is important to local communities, especially rural communities where access to care could be really difficult if the community pharmacy disappeared, and because patients may have to travel long distances, not only for prescriptions but for other things that community pharmacies provide today. And we're doing a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, during COVID, we tested over 20,000. We did over 20,000 PCR tests. We did thousands of vaccines. We did rapid tests. When monoclonal antibodies became available, which were the therapeutics at that time, we were able to treat. We set up a treatment room at our education center, and we could treat 4 patients at a time with monoclonal antibodies, Rejuvenco. We treated up to over 200 patients that were sick with COVID. And we even went to patients' homes and did that. So community pharmacies are vital to our community. And we've got to do whatever it takes to make sure they stay in the community.
Absolutely. And not just for the patients, but what a value center for, whatever entity is paying for that patient's care, especially with the education that you provide. So keeping that vision and looking to the future, what would you see in the next couple of years? What are you excited for down the road, or what would you love to implement that the timing just hasn't been right yet, but you're looking at the new shiny thing? So what's in your sights?
Yeah, so I think truly pharmacists as providers is coming. It's not coming fast enough, but I think as primary care becomes more difficult for physicians to get, especially in rural communities, I think pharmacists as providers is going to make a lot of sense. Maybe in the interim, until we can get to that part is creating clinics within a pharmacy so that we can see patients on weekends and times when appointments just aren't available. I know
Sure.
these urgent cares are popping up everywhere, but it costs a lot to
It
go
does.
to urgent care, and especially if you're uninsured. You could come into a pharmacy and get care for way less than what it would cost at something like an urgent care. So I think access to care is going to drive some of this. And as we see fewer and fewer primary care go into rural communities, I think you're going to see either a clinic in a pharmacy, or you're going to see eventually pharmacists becoming providers. And that would be, the ultimate thing. I think we are in the perfect position to do that. We're well trained. I mean, it would just take, it was not difficult for us at all to transition into giving these monoclonal antibodies. It was not hard at all to transition and bill for giving these PCR testing. We utilized students, we utilized residents, we had staff, we set up a tent outside, we did it inside, we did it outside, we made it work whatever was needed depending on the volume. So I think there are good things coming. It doesn't happen quick enough. And in some states, it seems to be happening a little quicker than others. North Carolina has allowed us to do a few things. We can prescribe naloxone. We can prescribe birth control. We can prescribe glucagon, nicotine replacement, of course, the COVID vaccines, all of those things, Paxlovid. But we need more. We need to be able to do a strep test and prescribe an antibiotic for a patient on the weekend.
Yeah, some of those basic test and treats just make so much sense.
Oh, it does. I mean, how hard is it to treat for flu, and if they test positive, administer Tamiflu? I mean, it's so cut and dry. But I think it's coming, and I'm excited for the future of pharmacy. It just needs to come faster.
Well, let's hope it does. I know you've got plenty going there, so I'm going to let you get back to your vision there in the pharmacy. But thank you so much for joining us, and I can't wait to see you out on the road.
Yeah, my pleasure. Good seeing you, Will.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond the Scripts, presented by the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please support our channel by liking, subscribing, and clicking the notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime we post new content. To stay up to date with all of the latest independent pharmacy news and content, follow Pioneer RX on your preferred social media platform.